get weapons and bombs. If you try anything, you will die.
Well, in 1976, in June of 1976, there was a hijacking of the Air France airliner full of French and Israeli nationals going from Tel Aviv to Paris via Greece. It was taken over by a couple of German extremists, as well as cooperation with a Palestinian extremist group. They decided to hijack the airliner in return for a ransom of $5 million and the release of several prisoners being held in Israel, among other demands. This sparked the biggest rescue operation of the time by the Israelis, a very risky one called Operation Thunderbolt. Well, this has been turned into a film again now called 7 Days in Entebbe. Now, this is not the first time this story has been told. In fact, in 1976, there were two rushed-to-air biopics, as it were, of the operation. We also had the foreign language film Operation Thunderbolt. We have seen this time and time again. So, what's new this time? I'm sorry to say, not much. This is pretty much by the numbers, rote storytelling.
There are 239 hostages at Entebbe. 83 are Israeli.
The Germans separated the Jews.
We have to act. There can be no negotiations with terrorists.
You want to invade Uganda, Shimon?
We give it back to them when we leave.
I found the characters, the German extremists who take over the plane, played by Daniel Bruhl and Rosamund Pike. They do a lot of talk. She is sort of drug addicted. There are character touches thrown in. But basically, we don't learn anything new, and I didn't think they were particularly compelling to wrap this movie around. And on the other hand, when they're not on screen, we go back to Knesset in Israel, where we see Sharon Peres and basically his rival Yitzhak Rabin arguing about what to do and should they take the risk, and basically how the operation is set into play once the decision is made to go in and rescue these hostages. And eventually they did rescue over 100 of the hostages, got them free, killed the terrorist. It was considered an enormously successful operation. What director Jose Padilla, who's been around the block a few times with these action movies, has failed to do is put much action in this. We have to wait a long, long time before the raid, and then it's sort of anticlimactic. Now, this is all taking place in Uganda, where they basically made the plane go, and it is met by Idi Amin, the notorious dictator, made famous by Forrest Whitaker's wonderful Oscar-winning performance in The Last King of Scotland. Well, here Amin is played as sort of a cartoon character by Nonso Anuze, and well, he's no Forrest Whitaker, but he doesn't really have the material to match here.
If you want to take control of the airport, you're gonna have to use a much bigger force.
But it's impossible to move a force of that size 4,000 kilometers undetected.
We can't just sit here, do nothing.
It's competently made, I'll give it that, but I just thought it was very dull. Maybe because you know what the outcome is. This is one of the most famous rescue operations, and if you're not going to give us the important kind of behind-the-scenes feel of it, what really goes into it, basically this is all written, you know, straight out of the history book, and I didn't see much that was fresh or new added to the story. So if you're not familiar with this at all, then maybe you'll be entertained by it. It certainly got all the fine cast. Rosamund Pike is always good to watch, even though she's much better in the upcoming movie Beirut, which has some similarity, but is a fictional piece, but she's very good in that. Here, though, she's sort of bogged down by the material and the nature of the filmmaking. For 7 Days in Entebbe, sadly, I have to say no.